What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode review for Higurashi When They Cry Sotsu. This is episode 19.
I think it was 10.
Okay, I'm an idiot. Yeah, 10. Sorry, I was thinking it was like some other series. Yeah, with me as always, I have Lisbeth.
Yeah, so well, I guess continuing on where we left off after what happened to Oishi. Well, the first thing we see him do is like he's deliberately dumping garbage all around Teppei's place. It's like,
okay, I immediately had to question this because I mean, what would happen if they just saw him do this and they came out while he was dumping garbage in front of their house?
Unless Sadako was deliberately stopping Teppei from even figuring that out, or they were just like no, there was no way they could have gone out, like, because they're like Teppei and Sadako have always like just stayed at that house without even leaving. Like, you know,
well, yeah, but they could look out the window.
Yeah, I mean, unless my guess, like, Sadako might have kept Teppei from even, getting wind of this, but somehow, like, Oishi managed to get away with it by just, dumping all that crap all over the place, and then like somehow Sadako and Teppei just immediately find out soon afterwards.
Yeah,
but it's,
and of course they think this is the villagers doing this.
Mm-hmm. And other than like replaying a lot of the stuff we've seen from Higurashi Go, this episode mostly focuses on like Teppei and Sadako's relationship in this episode, and of course we see signs that Sadako's personality or whatever it is starting to crack.
Yeah, like literally, like there are scenes where we just see like cracks. I was wondering what the hell that was about at first, and I had a theory that like something was going on with her. And I will say this episode does confirm a theory that I have heard, that there is something else going on with Sadako, which I just didn't really think too much about until now. But I guess it does make sense because, we've kind of been asking this whole time, how do you redeem a character like Sadako, who has done all the things that she's done up until this point? And well, I guess this episode sort of answers our question of how they could actually redeem somebody like Sadako. Which initially what she was doing just was irredeemable, and it is. But what if it wasn't her doing it? I'll just say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just I would say like much of this episode, like it was replaying a lot of the stuff we already seen, with some added stuff with Oishi, which confirms like that officer he was talking with, like confirms that he knew that he knew that the whole truth with the whole Sadako and Teppei situation, and he didn't even bother telling the rest of the village about this. But his explanation just just comes off as nonsensical at times, because once we get to the scene where like the entire village makes their case to have Sadako separated from Teppei, Oishi takes it upon himself to I guess go to Teppei's place again, and they also take a member of like what was it?
The child welfare services.
Yeah, the child welfare service to confirm this, and it literally proves. Well, they prove that like that there was nothing going on with Teppei and Sadako in the first place, and other than like allowing that guy to really confirm the news, Oishi just basically just tells him that he'll take responsibility for all this, and just keep just pretty much allowing that guy to just keep a closed lid on the whole thing.
Yeah. So I mean, we were kind of curious as to what happened whenever Oishi took the child welfare services person and to Sadako's house. Now we pretty much get to see what happened. I mean, it makes sense that Oishi's kind of trying to cover things up, or well, at least trying to take responsibility for this, based on him, how I really think it's due to him having this syndrome now. He's like starting to act this way. Because like I don't know if he'd really act this way normally, honestly.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just the things that Oishi was doing, in my opinion, was nonsensical, because he could have just immediately just told like the entire village the whole situation, and this would have, I guess this in a way could have been handled in a different way, but I don't know. Just
I mean, obviously he's not doing it because he's trying his vendetta against the entire village. He's trying to keep all this to himself. Otherwise I think he probably would, maybe, well, I don't know, maybe he would have told everybody, but
I mean,
it's hard to know for sure what he would have done if he hadn't have gotten injected with the syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, pretty much the episode plays out like almost exactly as it was supposed to, until like literally, I would say, the last 5 minutes of the episode. So this became, this turned into like a big deviation as to what happened from the original ending from like Go's version. So what happens is Sadako ends up calling Rika, telling him everything's okay, but she lies about the entire situation, that Uishi ended up arresting her uncle Teppei for attacking her or something like that, and then pretty much she'll meet Rika and the others at the festival and such. But then what happens is, like, Teppei wakes up after he gets drugged by Sadako again. He tries to inquire like what exactly happens, and then Sadako just starts monologuing about how things have turned out, and all of a sudden she just pulls a gun out in front of Teppei's forehead.
Yeah, that kind of surprised me because initially we thought that Teppei was the one who attacked Keiichi in this arc. So if she were to shoot Teppei, then I was kind of wondering like how that scene was going to play out here. She was going to shoot him, but of course, we see another scene where we see these cracks, and of course everything starts to shatter. And she, like, when the gun goes off, she shoots away from Teppei, and we see that she's kind of like fighting with herself. Like and we also see that one of her eyes is, looks different than the other one. So I guess trying to imply that she's just having this inner battle with herself. And then just all of a sudden, everything just around her starts to shatter, and it just cuts back to her being in the sea of fragments again. And then she just starts talking to herself, and she starts saying things like, why are you doing this? I don't want this, etc. And until eventually, like, literally a copy of herself comes out and literally starts fighting with her. I can't say I really saw this coming, to be honest. Like I said, I do know this was a theory people had, that Sadako was being possessed. But I'm not sure if it's so much possession as that it's some other personality that was, or if it was some other personality that was created. I guess the show will have us believe it is some kind of a split personality, but I want to lean towards it is that she's being possessed. This leads to a lot of other questions, like who is possessing her? When did this happen? Like, is this like literally another, like, some version of Sadako that split off from her original self? Or is this like a character that, like, another Umineko character that is possibly possessing Sadako, one of the witches? Because if we remember, Yua or Featherine in one of the last episodes referred to Sadako as being a witch. And of course, this character, I think, even verbatim says she is like a witch. But like I said, it could be a new character that is just exclusive to this series, or it could be a character, another Umineko character. It's hard to say for sure. And I also, this really just introduces a lot of other, like I said, just a lot of questions. Like, how long was Sadako was she being possessed by this, this supposedly this other version of herself? Like, I mean, was she taking control? I mean, was she taking control the whole time, or was she just like switching in and out? Is like what I'm curious about.
Yeah,
Like, I want to lean towards she was in control the whole time, or at least. But my other question is, when did she take control? I think it was when she asked Yua or Feathering to give her looping powers, and that when Feathering did that, that was when this thing or whatever it is possessed her and completely took over. And I think like original Sadako had at least like had this honest wish of wanting to be with Rika, wanting to stay with her, and I guess Featherine must have like twisted that and you know, or something, and created this I guess technically evil version of Sadako who will go to whatever lengths possible to keep Rika in Hinamizawa or keep Rika close to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. Like I said, I did not really expect this to happen. But yeah, it just leaves us with like way more questions now.
Yeah.
Like,
so,
yeah.
I mean, what happens in the end, regardless, is that Sadako's, well, I guess, witch personality ends up killing like the good personality of Sadako, and you know, it takes us back into the living room with Teppei and Sadako just shoots Teppei in the head, killing him. And then what happens next is she takes out a baseball bat and then just completely bashes, his skull in. Just I guess maybe she was trying to hide the bullet wound on his head. Just I don't know, just for something. I don't know. It's that could be a possibility, but it doesn't make sense with the fact that this is a different outcome as to what happened from the Go version. Now, as we remember in the Go version, like shortly after this scene, Sadako goes with Rika and the others to the Watanagashi festival, and then she invites Keiichi over back to her place, or Uncle Teppei's place, and that's when Keiichi gets assaulted by Teppei with a baseball bat, and then Teppei gets killed by Keiichi with the exact same bat.
The only okay, so there's two things that could have been happening here. It's like, one is that this is some different timeline as opposed to the one we saw from Go, but everything up until this point happened the same. But then after, I guess, Sadako started having this battle with herself, things changed. Or we do see Sadako with the bat. And if you remember, Keiichi was attacked with, Teppei holding a bat. I'm wondering if Sadako has some witch power that makes people see illusions or something. Maybe she could have made herself look like Teppei and attacked him with the bat. I'm not sure.
Well,
but,
it's hard to tell just because of how contradictory this scene was compared to the Go. But if anything, this episode just really hammers home the fact that there's no turning back at this point with Sadako, that she's basically just thrown away anything good about her at this point.
Yeah. I don't know, unless, it seems to imply that her, I guess, quote unquote original personality is dead, unless there is some way for it to somehow come back. I don't know. But another thing I should bring up too is that we do see Rika from time to time with those same eyes that Sadako has. I'm wondering, does that mean if Rika is also being possessed? If the eyes are to indicate that a character is like being possessed by a witch potentially, was Rika also at some points being possessed? But it doesn't make sense though, because Rika doesn't really act out of character. Whenever, I can't really think of Rika acting completely differently at except for maybe one point, which was when she was talking to Keiichi, in one of the earlier arcs. But Rika does act like that from time to time. Rika does That's more people. You could argue that's more of like her original personality, like coming out. The witch that she's based on in Umineko, Bern Castell, does act like that pretty much all the time. But people could argue that could either just be the real Rico, or it could even be Bern Castell. And my theory is that, I guess now after seeing this episode, is that it's either that Bern Castell is possessing Rika and Lambda Delta supposedly is possessing Sadako. Or it could just be, like I said, a new character that is a witch that is possessing Sadako, or something like that. I was asking myself, why would they do this, though? But if you remember, those who have read Umineko, witches do things just to entertain themselves. They don't really have any complex reasons for why they do things, for the most part. So they could have just been bored and they wanted to entertain themselves, and that's why they decided to go to the Higurashi timeline. But it's hard to say exactly what's happening. And now I'm kind of wondering how this is all going to play out. We know that eventually Rika is going to get the ceremonial sword, and I guess it's either going to be like her against Yua, or her against Yua and Sadako, or this new Sadako. She's gonna have to at least use that, because that sword can only be used on loopers. So she's gonna have to. I can speculate the way in which maybe original Sadako could come back, as if the ceremonial sword will kill this other version of Sadako and maybe potentially somehow bring back the original. But I guess it's really too early to speculate that. I don't know. This is I mean, like Blue Spade said, most of this episode was kind of a lot of what we've seen already. What's really interesting about it is what happens at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it did leave us with a little bit more questions as to what's going to happen with Sadako moving forward. It's hard to tell. I mean, it's possible that because the evil Sadako mentions that the good Sadako that was fighting with her is essentially a fragment of her. So it's possible that there could be more fragments of a different Sadako that might end up coming back at a later episode. But it's as of right now, it's hard to tell.
I should mention we have seen this happen with other characters as well, like in different fragments. What was her name? The woman that was at least was seeing Rena's dad. She was acting differently.
Yeah, you mean
Rina or whatever?
Yeah, Rina. Yeah.
Yeah, she was acting differently. Of course, Sadako's uncle Tepe has been acting completely differently. So I mean, maybe that's to show that there are other fragments of people or characters from other fragments that will, in certain fragments, act completely differently from their usual selves. So maybe that's what's going on with Sadako, is that she's being possessed by these versions of her from another fragment or something. And she turned into a witch.
Yeah, because the good Sadako has mentioned that she doesn't want to kill her uncle nor any more of her friends, over and over again. So it's really starting to dawn on her, I guess, that she's starting to regret her actions. But it just seems like her more dominant personality is, her most evil, more detestable one right now.
Yeah, it seems that way. This is a pretty crazy episode. At least the middle and kind of the end of it. And now we know there's going to be another part to this arc, but from what we know, there's not really a lot that happens after this point. So I'm kind of wondering obviously there's stuff that's going to happen with Oishi, but I don't think that's really gonna that doesn't take up too much. Also, much else.
We do know what happens with Oishi. He goes crazy and he starts killing everybody in during the festival. Now, as for the whole Keiichi scene, I don't know how that's gonna play out after what Sadako just did to Tepe at that scene. So unless unless Sadako is the one who ended up hitting Keiichi with a bat in the first place. I mean, it's possible that could play out that way, but
I mean, really, that's I really feel like that's pretty much the only way it could play out at this point if Teppei's dead. Or it'd be any other character, because I mean, it can't be Teppei. So I mean, if we're to assume this is going to play out the same way,
yeah. I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, next week's episode is still the curse revealing chapter. So we got one more episode of this, and I mean, hopefully we will finally get to the next arc, which is like, what was it, the Neko revealing chapter?
Yeah, so I guess that's going to be they're going to go through Neko Damashi again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Neko Damashi is the one that which really revealed Sadako being the looper in the first place before it completely deviated us away from that entire storyline.
Yeah, so I guess it'll probably go through Neko Damashi for 1 or 2 episodes and then jump back to where we were left off with the Sadako holding people at gunpoint.
Yeah, but it was I mean, it was an okay episode. It's just the only part of the episode I enjoyed was the last 5 minutes of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say I enjoyed it for the most part. I thought it was okay. Like, it kind of seemed like it kind of went along the same way it has been going through the first few episodes of this arc, where we're just kind of shown Oishi's perspective and somewhat Sadako and her uncles. But I really thought it was okay, at least up until the end. Then I will say it really piqued my interest, because like I said, I didn't really anticipate this being, the whole possession thing or whatever's going on with Sadako actually being what's really going on with her. So, but I think because I mean, like I said, we've been saying, how in the hell can Sadako redeem herself after everything she's done? And I guess this is the only real way, is that if she wasn't really the one in control, if it was like technically like somebody else that was like doing everything. Because it's like, it's hard to believe Sadako would have done all the things that she's done up until now. So I guess it kind of makes sense if she wasn't really the one doing everything. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have too much else to say about this episode. Yeah, like you said, I do agree. It was like, it wasn't all that, interesting up until like near the end.
Yeah, it's just like it's just this arc in particular has been, reusing a lot of the scenes we've already saw in Higurashi Go, other than just slip in like some original scenes here and there, which is the same. It's the exact same case with this episode, with the exception of the last 5 minutes of it.
Yeah. I mean, there's new stuff, but yeah, I mean, they do reuse a few different scenes. I kind of wish they would have toned those down a little bit. But I think it was kind of necessary to, because I mean, there were some things that were different. Like, we got some new scenes with Oishi. It sort of provided more context for what he was doing in Higurashi Go.
I mean, in my opinion, I really think this arc just goes by a little bit too long. Just like I said, just goes by the fact that they kept reusing like almost 80% of the scenes they already showed in Go from time to time, and then for it to be like 5 episodes long for this arc just feels a little bit unnecessary to me.
Yeah, it kind of has me wondering what else they really need to cover, because if I remember correctly, there's not really much more to go over in this arc. That Go covered.
Yeah, I mean, we're stuck with at least one more episode of the curse revealing chapter. I mean, but it's gonna play out a little bit differently due to the fact that Sadako was the one who ended up killing Teppei in the first place.
Yeah, I think there'll probably be more new stuff involving Sadako and this other personality that took over, and probably just more scenes with her in like the Sea of Fragments or something like that. But yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about this episode in particular. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
Yeah, it was okay. I mean, I'm just hoping for a lot more original stuff for next week's episode. But seeing as like how the episode ended, it's possible that it might show some original stuff. And not just reuse a lot of the scenes. But I doubt it. There's not a lot of scenes from Go they can use at this point.
It will probably be more original content, I would assume, because like I said, there's not really much else they have to go over from this, from what we saw this arc and Go.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I don't see how they could have an entire episode dedicated to the rest of that. I mean, when there's probably there's not much else that really happens from what I remember. They go through the Watanagashi festival and Keiichi going back to Sadako's house, and then of course Oishi just going crazy. And I mean, not to mention, there's not really much point in showing at least the whole scenes happening again, because they have only shown parts of the scenes of those scenes from Go, so there probably won't be too much retreading of some of what we've already seen, because we already know what happens. We'll probably just get some new things added in there. Of course, we'll probably see how Oishi just completely starts going crazy, at least, because I mean, we already have seen him begin to just, I mean, he's scratching his neck more, but he hasn't really completely lost it yet.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just wondering,
because in Go, all we see is him just kind of going up to the festival and just starting to shoot everybody.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll probably just see what happened before that.
Yeah.
I guess.
I'm just wondering what the trigger was, which made him go off like that all of a sudden. I mean, he just looked, throughout the entire episode, he just looked normal at times, or just faint, or he just make it appear that he looked normal, other than the fact that he goes crazy at several points by dumping garbage in random places and destroying shrines and such. But
yeah, usually people that have the syndrome, it's more of a gradual build up to before they just start completely losing it and killing people.
Mm-hmm. But there's always something that that they experience that that triggers it. Like, for example, Rena's trigger was her dad, visiting Rina over and over again. Then there's what was it? Mion's trigger was going out with Keiichi or something like that,
or just seeing her sister with Keiichi.
Yeah, that.
Well, it was more so she wanted to protect Keiichi. She thought that the entire village was against them. Mm-hmm. I guess you have a point. Maybe there will be some kind of a trigger.
Mm-hmm. Unless Sadako's the one who poked the bear for this one, but it's hard.
I would bet that's probably the case.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to find out next week to see what the cause of it was. But we all know what happens at the end of this arc. We know Oishi's the one who murders literally everybody, and I think the only survivors left in that at that end of that arc was Keiichi and Rena. That's it.
Yeah, pretty much. And of course, we only found out later, what happened and near the end of that arc from Rena.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that all being said, until next Thursday, we will see you all next time.